Do you have a G05 X5 with a check engine light on for the active air grille shutters, upper or lower? Well, I'm Rusty with FCP Euro, and I'm here to show you how to go ahead and replace both of them all by yourself. In front of me on the table, we have both of the active air grills for the G05 X5 behind me, the lower one as well as the main one behind the kidney grills. These are commonly replaced due to check engine lights occurring from the motors that are in the center, which drive the shutters open and closed. Furthermore, if you have dirt, debris, ice, freezing rain, those things can temporarily disrupt the operation and even throw a check engine light. So BMW is aware that these are becoming problematic. They've created technical service bulletins, further extended warranties, and we're seeing these kind of fail generally between 40 and 80,000 miles, on average about 60,000 miles. So hopefully the newer iterations will elongate the life a little bit, but the replacement isn't awful. We will have to take off the front bumper, so it's not terribly hard job, but it is a little bit tedious. And with that, let's go over some of the tools we'll need to take care of the job. As you can see by the table in front of me, not many tools are going to be necessary here today. We do have a 1/2-inch impact gun if you're taking the wheels off, accompanied by a 17mm socket. We've got a 1/4-inch ratchet, we've got a T30, we've got a T20, we've got an 8mm small extension in 1/4-inch. We've got a little pick. You could also use a 90-degree one, but we've got this little curved end here, a very bright flashlight, and a couple of panel tools. We also have these plastic wedges here, which may be helpful for removing some of the wheel liners. But with that, let's go ahead and get into the job. Although we will be putting the vehicle up on a lift and removing the front wheels, it's not entirely necessary. You can certainly get to all the hardware by turning the wheels side to side. The plastic trims in the front cowl here need to be removed. We'll start by removing the hood cowl trim here and removing a lot of the push rivets throughout and getting the hood seal off of here as well. Using a little panel tool, we can just pop the 3 rivets up. They are little plastic rivets, so be careful. We've had these out a couple times, so they may be a little bit easier than the ones on your vehicle. The rivets, simply pull the center out, pop the body of it up. We're actually missing one here, but there's an additional one up by the windshield. Can be a little tricky. And on the driver's side only, you'll have the hood cable. Just need to get underneath it. There we go. And then you will tip this up and pull straight out. Over on the passenger side, similar scenario with the hood seal in front, plastic rivets. Unlike the driver's side, we don't have the hood cable, but we do have this washer reservoir. It might be a little bit easier to remove that, but you can certainly squeeze it through there. Get the hood seal, and then one more rivet up here. We're missing another one over here as well. That should be all of them. Oh, one more. Things get hidden in here. All right. So just get that away from the washer reservoir. Now, the top of the front bumper assembly does have 4 T30 screws on the radiator support here. And with that loosened up, we can continue taking off the rest of the bumper, get the front wheels off, and the inner fender liners. And if you are pulling the wheels off, it's a 17mm to get the wheel lugs out. Now in removing the fender liner, again, we're going to take the entire fender liner out, but you may be able to get to a lot of the connections for the bumper and the wiring harness by just taking off a couple here and kind of folding it back with the wheel still on. You just kind of fold the fender liner in. Watch out for the harness up here. Next up, we'll start removing this fender wheel arch. You can simply kind of reach behind here and depress some of the clips that hold it along the edge here. You can also get a wedge under here, a plastic trim tool, but I've had success kind of just working the clips out. And once you get the bottom pulled out, you can kind of just walk along the fender. Right here, you'll have some plastic clips. You can stop at this point because you just need to separate the bumper. Although I'm going to continue removing the rest of it because if you don't, you do run the risk of scratching the bumper while you let this kind of sit here and flap around. It's definitely a lot easier to go ahead and remove the whole trim. Now, located above the auxiliary cooler, below the passenger headlight, we do have a washer line here to pop off this bracket. Get that out of our way. And the two connectors we're going to be working with here, the bottom one is the one we're going to be mainly focusing on, although we do have to disconnect both of them. So let's get both of these connectors off by squeezing the tabs. Sometimes it's a little push and pull. There might be some dirt stuck in yours as well as mine. There we go. A little bit of wiggling. Same on the top, tabs on the outside. Might be easier to loosen this harness here. Once we get those loose, underneath here there is a tab to loosen this entire bracket. Carefully, you don't extend that tab too far because it will break. Once you get that loosened up on the back side, flip it around, there is a little tab in the very center. We'll use a small pick, move the tab up and push the bracket backwards, moving the clip. It's kind of a bit of a dance pushing the connector forward. We're just moving this clip right here in this direction to release it from this bracket here. But this harness will stay in the vehicle, the one on the bracket, and then this one will come off with the bumper. Now moving on to the driver's side, once we've got that bumper harness disconnected, you'll be doing the exact same procedure, removing the fender liner and the wheel arch just in a mirror fashion. Now, up under the front of the car, we have about 10 8mm screws holding the front of the bumper on, and then there are two more on either side of the center belly pan holding these in. You can certainly leave these in, but it will get a little bit cumbersome when reinstalling the bumper. And then we can take these out. The bumper is almost loose. We'll get the car back down and we'll finish up top and get the bumper completely off. Now that we have that connector situated, we do have to release the corners of the bumper. Right at this seam here, you'll have one screw going down, and then there's another one up towards the headlight that's going up in that direction. They are 8mm screws. Once you get both of those released, you'll see the bumper start to kind of pull away from the fender a little bit, but at this point, there are two clips here. We'll have to depress slightly and pull down on the bumper a little bit, just using a pick to kind of pull those away. It's not entirely necessary. And once you get that clip released, you kind of pull the bumper down and away. We do still have the actual grille holding it in place, but this is going to loosen up most of the bumper for you. And now we're going to perform the same operation on the driver's side, minus the main connection. We're going to do the fender liner, the wheel arch, and the bumper disconnect. Now, before we go ahead and get the entire bumper off, there is a camera on this particular vehicle right in the front here. And to get to the connector, we are going to have to remove the kidney grills. There is a series of clips along the top here. We're going to use a little panel tool, push them out from these little inlets here. Get that all the way out. And then you have to pick it up. In theory, located on the very back. It's actually easier to take the camera assembly out and then remove the connector afterwards. Squeezing the outsides of the body of the connector. In theory, there we go. Now we've got two more 8mm screws on either side of the grille. And underneath here, there is a trim clip, prying this through. So we're gonna go ahead and release all the bumper trim clips around the bottom of the kidney grills here, using a panel tool to lift the trim and kind of pull out on the bumper at the same time. Once you've released all the clips around the grill, bumper is ready to come off. Once you've got the bumper off, we can loosen this all the way up. It's got a little bit of a stand on the side there. Tipping it forward, you can come around the back and see we do have a couple of connections still left. There is a motor in the center of the grill. Then we also have a camera over here, which we have to get that off as well. And there is an additional washer line. And we'll show you how to intricately remove all these connectors here in a sec. So the connector that we removed from the camera is the lower one here. We'll fish that out, get that out of our way. Go ahead and release the connector here. And then also there's a little wire harness connection right here. Just kind of work that out. Once we've got that connector and the harness connection off there, you'll notice we have a connection over here, which has 2 clips we'll have to squeeze simultaneously, pulling that down. Actually, it's just 1 clip. That made it a lot easier. And then the washer line here has a block. I'll have to get this popped up, and then the line simply disengages, and there is the upper radiator shutter removed. But we still have 1 more to go. So while we're in this same area, following this harness down, we do have 1 additional connection that goes to the lower shutter underneath here. We'll show you how to get that one off before unbolting this lower shutter. Located right on the back of the lower active grille shutter motor is another one of those little harness connectors. We're going to get that off to give us a little more slack. Sometimes I can get these connectors off, sometimes I can't, and this one's definitely a little bit finicky. The connection is upside down, but we can certainly release the T30s in the front of the shutter, tip it down, and get that connector a little bit easier. So you will have to fold the front of the active grille down just slightly to gain access to the T30 in the center. And once that's loose, you can kind of pull it forward, tip it down. It does have some tabs and some posts that sit along this lower bar, but now you can see that connector that they've put in upside down. It does have a little tab, but now we're ready to go ahead and install our new active grille shutters. Now that we're ready to put the new lower grille in, we'll feed that connector through, flipping our grille upside down, putting that connection on, make sure that engages well. You can even fish this back into the back of the motor. Now, this is going to clip over that, and then these are going to stop on that lower bar. These do line up to the brake ducts on either side, so just make sure you're lining those up as well. Now we'll go ahead and take those 4 T30s, snug those back up in place. And before we go ahead and put that upper main grille shutter on, we do have to transfer some of those cameras and a couple of small pieces over to the new one before fully installing it. First, we're going to start with the hood seal here. Just simply pops out of place. And we'll flip the old one over. And right here on the driver's side of the grille, there are 3 T20 screws that hold this camera in. Camera, sensor, radar. There's so much technology, I get it all confused. Dip this, it's got some debris on there. Give it a quick polish because it's probably not going to have another chance again. And then that is going to drop in on the new grille like so. And that is all we are going to need from that old grille. Once we've got that transferred over to the new grille, we're ready to go ahead and start reassembling the front of the vehicle. Just like removal, starting on the driver's side, we'll start with the washer line. If you did have that black clip disconnected, we're just going to re-engage that and attach that to the washer attachment here. And then the connection, you may have to bring it a little bit closer. Make sure that engages well. Coming over here, we do have the camera that we'll fish through in the front here. We've got the main motor in the center. Make sure that one engages as well. And then that pesky plastic connection that really fought us coming off. That one in. And that's pretty much it for underneath there. When you go to reinstall this, you do have to keep it up quite a bit. There are 2 stands on either side of the front bumper. You want to get that right above those. Once it's directly above those, your bolt holes up here should line up. Give it a good push into place, and it should more or less keep it there while we go ahead and get the rest of the screws and start reattaching this main shutter. We'll have those T30s we removed here. That will help us line up the bumper when we're going to put in all those clips. Leaving this somewhat relaxed will make it a lot easier to really line those all up together. So we'll go back and tighten those on top, and let's grab our bumper and grille and get this thing ready to go back together. You'll notice I put a little painter's tape here. It's going to help because the curvature of the bumper is really going to get in the way when you're trying to adjust things, unless you have another friend with you. But doing it by yourself, you may want to take a second to put a little tape around the headlights. As you can see, it is a little close there. So you want to line up all the trim clips around the center of the bumper. If you get the two top ones here, it'll definitely kind of fall into place. It should all audibly click and engage. And if you recall, we did have the camera out and disconnect the connector. The connector does have a certain fashion in which it can be installed. There are some notches on the side. Line those up with the body of the camera. If it's fighting you, it's probably 180 degrees out. Let that hang for a second. I'm gonna just clip that into place. Lining up all the trim clips, grille. And then we have those two bumper screws here as well. Now that we've got that secured, we need to get the corners of the bumpers and the underside secured before moving on to the fender liners and the rest of the engine bay plastics, but we're almost there. So we'll put the car up in the air and we'll catch you guys in the fender well. Now those nice long bumper screws, we're gonna reinstall those. If you remember, one did go from above and one went from below. Those will begin to draw the bumper closer to the fender. So if you have a large gap here, don't worry, this will fix that. Make sure that other one is snugged up as well. I'm not torquing these because they do go into plastic, so just kind of use your better, judgment. Don't over tighten them, don't leave them loose. And now that the bumper is resecured on this side, we can take our tape off if you had any, but we're gonna do that same process to that top of the bumper on the driver's side. But before we move over there, personally, we're gonna start working on this harness and getting this all back together. So if you recall, that bracket did have the main bumper harness in place, and the center of that bracket slid in there like so. Make sure that clicks into place, and then this goes into this bracket like that. Hopefully your harness is kind of sitting in the same fashion here. You could certainly mix these connectors up. That's pretty cool. Hopefully it doesn't affect anyone. Maybe mark these before taking them off, but our harness is kind of relaxed in a certain way that if you crisscross them, it'll be obvious. Make sure this harness reattaches to the headlight, and then we have this washer line here. And now that these harnesses are resecured, we don't have to worry about that on the other side, but don't forget to reattach the bumper on the driver's side, and we'll catch you back underneath the front of the car to reattach the front bumper screws, and we'll come back to the wheel well after that. Starting underneath the car here, we're going to slide these back under the belly pan, and then you should still have a pile of these 8mm screws. And then we have the same thing on this side. And you should have another one there, but that one's missing a plastic rivet. We'll have to replace that later on. That takes care of all the screws underneath. And we'll catch you guys back in the fender liner to reinstall the wheel arch as well as that front section of the fender liner. Grab the correct fender liner and position it inside here. Get it all lined up, and it will tuck into the front of the bumper a little bit here. Kind of hold it in place. Next up, if you took the wheel arch all the way out, if not, just resecure the front section. If you took it all the way out, I like to tip in both of the ends. One thing to keep in mind, if you see any O-rings on here, remove those and install them onto the white clips in the back. But once you get those tabs lined up, all these should fall right into place. And like we said earlier, do the same thing on the other side with the fender liner and the wheel arch. We're gonna throw our wheels back on. And if you took your wheels off as well, we're gonna torque them up to 140 Newton meters, but we'll catch you guys back in the engine bay to wrap up everything up top. Starting on the driver's side of the engine bay, we have the panel here that's gonna go on the fender. Tuck it underneath the hood a little bit. And then back here, it will kind of follow the frame rail, so you might have to massage it in place. Actually, take that up a little bit. It is going to go underneath this panel, so if you did not take that out earlier, just a little twist of the thumb screw, drop that in place, play around with it back here, and then we have the hood cable attachment right there, just a little bit easier to get while it's still loose. Drop that back down. We do have the hood seal here. It's going to tuck in on this side, roll over there. We'll go ahead and grab the other side, and we'll put all the plastic rivets in one shot. And if you took your washer cap off, catch the little hook here, flip it back over, Reinstall that, give that a 90-degree. Tuck this into here, like that. Just make sure everything's fitted, and you should have a pile of these plastic rivets. Start putting them in, pushing the center of the dowel back down to lock them in place. As I mentioned earlier, we're missing one here, so I'll skip that and go to the very end over here. And last but not least, the front hood seal here. Probably going to be easier to line it up at the very edge, starting this little Christmas tree, tucking it in here, and just kind of following it along the front edge. And that wraps up the DIY on the G05 X5 active air grille shutters, upper and lower. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If so, don't forget to hit that like button. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop them down in the comments section below. And don't forget to subscribe, because we'll have plenty more videos on this vehicle and many others like it. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.